Altcoiners look alive because SEC Chairman Gary Gensler has called down the thunder.
The impudence, the audacity, the unmitigated gall. You've called down the thunder. Now get ready for the boom!
And as recently said, in short, if it's not Bitcoin, it's a security. Now, I'm not going to go too far into the regulatory argument. What I want to know, first, is the chairman of the SEC a Bitcoin maximalist? And two, if the chairman of the SEC were a Bitcoin maximalist, what would it look like and what actions might they take? Let's dive in and see if SEC Chairman Gary Gensler is about that life. All right, let's get into the recent news first from Swan CEO Corey Clipston. Now, first off, why do Bitcoiners call and refer to altcoins as shitcoins? I'm pretty sure that involves the fact they're centralized, manipulated scams. Okay, so now, under that understanding, wouldn't that make shitcoins the same as sketchy companies owning stocks in some BS tech company? So therefore, under the current modus operandi since like the mid-30s, that makes shitcoins unregistered securities that have not followed due diligence despite Bitcoiners and the SEC warning them about this. Let's see what Gary Gensler said. All right, and this post from February 25th, hot off the New York Mag Press from SEC Chairman Gary Gensler, quote, everything other than Bitcoin, Gensler said, you can find a website, you can find a group of entrepreneurs, they might set up their legal entities in a tax haven offshore, they might have a foundation, Ethereum, they might lawyer it up to try to arbitrage and make it hard jurisdictionally, or so forth. In other words, there are people behind these cryptocurrency shitcoins using a variety of complex and legally opaque mechanisms. But at the most basic level, they are trying to promote their tokens and entice investors. Bitcoin, because of its unique history and creation story, is fundamentally different from the crypto projects in this respect. Truly decentralized. Here is the story in question, and we'll go a little further into that story, so let's dive in. Here is the passage from Corey. Let's continue a couple more here that are pretty good, but they might drop their tokens overseas at first and contend or pretend that it's going to take 6 months before they come back to the U.S. He continued, but at the core, he argued, these tokens are securities because there's a group in the middle and the public is anticipating profits based on that group. The claim that crypto investors are hoping to profit based on the efforts of those intermediaries in much the same way that stockholders in public companies hope to see their investments appreciate over time is central to Gensler's position that, as a legal matter, these are actually transactions in securities that fall within the SEC's jurisdiction. As a matter of securities law, Gensler's view is not that hard to understand, though it is still being tested in the courts. The agency racked up a significant win last November, but there are other pending legal rulings that are eagerly awaited by the industry observers, and there is a well-resourced crypto lobby that is not likely to back down anytime soon. For now, the SEC has emerged as the industry's primary civil regulator, whether crypto advocates like it or not, but there are still plenty of big questions about what the agency has been up to in recent years and what its current enforcement strategy will actually achieve. Arguably, the federal government's actions, including those of the SEC, didn't do much to prevent the loss of trillions of dollars of Americans who hold crypto assets in some form. So yeah, when I think of Gensler actually being a Bitcoiner, we would have to look at his statements and, of course, his actions. That statement aligns with most Bitcoiners I talk to when discussing shitcoins and basic principles of what makes a shitcoin a shitcoin. What I'm getting at is shitcoin is synonymous with an unregistered security due to the same properties. And based on Gensler's most recent statements mirroring that of a base Bitcoiner on crypto, casinos, and shitcoins, it truly seems Gensler may be a maximalist. Now, we know he taught a course at MIT on Bitcoin and made statements there years ago that Ethereum was a security and what a pre-mine is and ICOs, etc. Gensler knows his stuff and even taught his students that Bitcoin was different from crypto. So let's go ahead and sit in on one of Gensler's old sessions here and see what that was like in his class at MIT.
But the riddle remained, how do you move money on the internet? Or in essence, how do you move value peer-to-peer without a centralized intermediary? And that's the core of blockchain technology.
He's talking about
so
Bitcoin
who solved
and the
riddle?
Byzantine general's problem.
Is anybody going to tell me who solved the riddle? Who solved this riddle? No,
I wish I had a t-shirt talking about this stuff.
You're wearing a t-shirt that says Quentin Tarantino, so I think Quentin Tarantino should solve a riddle. What's that? What's your name?
Brutus.
Brutus. And who solved this riddle?
Satoshi Nakamoto.
Yeah.
Nailed it. Now, in a Quentin Tarantino movie, if Gensler was in it and there was that big fight scene and this big slaughter at the end, that might be Gensler and all shitcoiners. But let's continue.
So a peer-to-peer cash, this is the actual doc top of an email that was sent out on Halloween 2008 by Satoshi Nakamoto. We don't actually know who Satoshi Nakamoto is, but it's a study question a few lectures from now to ask you to tell me who you think Satoshi Nakamoto is. So I won't ask that now.
What a badass class project.
And he started with a very simple sentence in his email.
Essay topic.
I've been working on a new electronic cash system that fully peer-to-peer with no trusted third party. It's kind of a modest statement. And so the question is this another internet layer? We're going to explore.
Now we fast forward. Gensler has said Satoshi Nakamoto's innovation is real. He promotes self-custody, and he's been going after shitcoiners or unregistered securities in unrelenting fashion as of late. Let's check out this article. And this is from 2021. SEC chairman says Satoshi Nakamoto's innovation is real. Crypto rules are clear. Let's go ahead and start right here, noting that when he was at MIT, prior to being confirmed as the head of the SEC, he researched, wrote, and taught on the subject of Bitcoin, crypto, and blockchain technology. Gensler opined. In that work, I came to believe that though there was a lot of hype masquerading as reality in the crypto field, Nakamoto's innovation is real. Further, it has been and could continue to be a catalyst for change in the fields of finance and money. That's a bold statement. That's a Bitcoiner statement. Unlike fiat money, Gensler said, at its core, Nakamoto was trying to create a private form of money with no central intermediary, such as a central bank or commercial banks. Here's a nice tweet from Neil Jacobs. So I ask again, if the chairman of the SEC of the United States was a Bitcoin maximalist and had to play his cards tight, what would that look like? What would they say? And would they promote self-custody, unlike shitcoiners we know, Mashinsky and CZ, and Neil Jacobs nailed it. Alex Mashinsky, CEO of Celsius, said self-custody was the reason people lost their Bitcoin. Then Celsius went bankrupt. Now CZ, CEO of Binance, is throwing FUD at self-custody, and we did a piece on that recently. Be sure to check that out. I'm not 100% certain, but based on what I've seen and heard from Gensler, I think he may be a bigger advocate than many believe when it comes to Bitcoin. And I believe that he fundamentally believes and has a passion for Bitcoin. While some may have seen the FTX debacle, Celsius, Do Kwon, all that bullshit as a way to attack Bitcoin, but it looks like that has, on the other side, provided Gensler and others evidence to show his associates the difference between Bitcoin and everything else. And people are waking up. And if not, they better soon, because with about 16 to 18 months until the next halving, we could be gearing up for one of Bitcoin's most bullish cycles in history. Here's why. A major attack vector on Bitcoin, as detailed in an MIT paper, we'll do a whole episode on soon. But one vector was to have thousands of copies and altcoin shitcoins, which act as distractions and pull capital, which is signal in the form of price from Bitcoin. So if and when these shitcoins meet their maker, and it appears imminent, that capital will go to its rightful place, and development will go to its rightful place with new exciting layers and applications of Bitcoin and Lightning we have yet to imagine. We also have the shitcoin slaughter. Then we have the hash rate hitting over 410 exahash a second over the weekend. I mean, come on. Bitcoin is the quantum computer. We have nations, major nations, BRICS, and the like. Speaking of international settlement and national mining operations, Bitcoin is blossoming in Central and South America while protecting many in Africa and the Middle East from authoritarian regimes and currency debasement. We also are probably very near the release of a spot ETF by the next halving after a crypto casino cleanup paves the way for it. Possibly what Gary has in the works, and we know there is some sketchy stuff at DCG that needs fixed before Grayscale gets that green light. But man, I am stoked. I'm so freaking bullish. Let's get to the tweets. And another one from Corey. This feels like a response to a request. There remain dozens of obvious scams and clear unregistered securities still listed on Coinbase. So we talked about Celsius and Mashinsky and CZ. Well, they're not alone. The shitcoin casinos are vast. Oh, but yeah, Coinbase, don't worry. They got it under control. They regularly monitor the assets on their exchange. They make sure they have high standards. Just scroll through it. What did this guy post here? Are you calling my neighbor Alice and miners of Delarnia securities, sir? Jesus Christ. Tell me that's not a shitcoin. And just to build on why we Bitcoin, Sven Heinrich is always dropping some good sauce out there. Interest on the debt goes way larger than the entire yearly U.S. military budget now. But let's keep raising rates while peddling a soft landing narrative. Ooh. All right, this one's really good. So from Collector of Sets, there we go. Shitcoins, securities. Corporate needs you to find the difference between this picture and this picture. And there's Gary. They are the same picture. Yeah, it looks like a wicked mullet right there. It's terrifying. Wait, everything except Bitcoin is a security? Always has been. You were warned, shitcoiners. All right, I like this one by John W. Creasy. I call this work of art a Bitcoin maximalist looks on. That's all the shitcoins and shitcoin casinos, the Titanic, and the Bitcoin maxi looking on. Maybe we put Gary right there. What an absolute shit show. They should have been stacking sets and they wouldn't have fun staying poor. And we got this one from Nico. Like I was telling you, this next halving coming up may be one of the most bullish of all time because the stage is set for some massive, massive inflows into Bitcoin, not to mention Fidelity, BlackRock, and all the other big dogs that have got in. But make sure you self-custody your Bitcoin. And here we go from Bitcoin Clown. Time to pamp it. We got a new mascot, guys. What do you think? This one from Agorist Nexus. When all you wanted to do was enslave humans, harvest souls, drink loosh, and party. But now, humanity is waking up, and they're stacking sats, ushering in the bright orange future, which will make the state and central banks irrelevant. Oh man, Collector of Sats. Oh, this is quality. All right, there we go. The classic bus in the train. Shitcoins getting rocked by the SEC. Uncle Gary taking them to the woodshed, and just add insult to injury for them there. SEC chair confirms everything other than Bitcoin is a security. Get wrecked. Here from Bitcoin Gus, why hasn't the CFTC officially decreed Bitcoin to be a commodity? It would open up the floodgates. Legislators and regulators in the US are in a quagmire. They are watching too many fraudsters and scammers in crypto get away with shenanigans, but what they fear most is legitimizing Bitcoin. They know the rest of the industry is very easy to control. The stakes are about dollar hegemony. We got another good one from Corey here. Watch this video from last year for context on the SEC's ongoing actions in the non-Bitcoin crypto space. Let's check it out.
So again, all of this is illegal according to the rules on the books. And all of these things are securities. And if they were regulated as such as what they are, none of this is legal. None of these exchanges are legal, including Coinbase, obviously Binance, FTX, UX is not legal. Like none of this stuff is legal according to the rules on the books. And the reason those rules are there, you know, you can certainly have a principled stand and you can say like the SEC shouldn't exist, bro, you know, or there should be no regulations. And that's fine. If you're out there, you're in DC and you've been banging the table saying like, you know, Stratton Oakmont should be able to like, you know, market penny stocks to your grandma at the nursing home and let the market decide, you know, that's totally fine if that's your hardcore libertarian stance. But you can't have it both ways. You can't not want Ponzi schemes and OTC stock manipulation and, you know, fraud on elders and stuff, and then be pro crypto being unregulated. You can't have your cake and eat it too. So you can't be Coinbase and benefit from all of the credibility that comes with being listed on a major US stock exchange and all of the credibility that grants you around the world, knowing that you're regulated, that you're audited, that you have analyst coverage, all this stuff. And then on the other hand, say, oh, but these other securities that are trading on my platform, don't look there. Those aren't securities. You know, Balaji hired some lawyers and they have a framework and they said that they're not securities. But of course they are.
It is plain as day. And here we go, Chewy, the article, but love his little narrative. Gensler says everything except spot transactions in Bitcoin is under SEC jurisdiction. Hashtag bullish as here we go. From Walker America, quote, everything other than Bitcoin is a shitcoin. That from Gary Gensler. Not quite what he said, but you know what he meant. Okay, we went through a lot there. Now, I know this is a stretch, but what if the Secretary of Treasury was being orange-pilled too? What might that look like? Let's see what Janet said back in April. Here's a thread from Alex Gladstein 1. Secretary Yellen's latest public remarks are nothing short of remarkable. Here, the U.S. government official in charge of the financial system talks about Satoshi Nakamoto's innovation. Quote, new technology has raised the possibility of reduced reliance on centralized intermediaries. This is wild stuff. I gotta cut the noise, absorb the signal. Here we go.
Recently, new technology has raised the possibility of reduced reliance on centralized intermediaries like banks and credit card companies. In 2008, a person or group of people, Satoshi Nakamoto, proposed a decentralized peer-to-peer system for making and processing payments. A key challenge in digital payments is to prevent the same assets from being spent twice.
We said they were waking up.
The Bitcoin white paper proposed a novel using cryptography that addressed the so-called double spend problem. Most recently,
Very interesting from Janet Yellen. Let's continue the thread from Gladstein here. Number 2, Yellen begins her speech, full remarks below, observing the digitization of finance, noting that the explosive growth of the internet, which took us from 3 million users in 1990 to 4.5 billion today, foreshadowing a bigger global electronic economy. And we'll have that article down in the notes for you. I love how Gladstein ended the thread. 10, I wondered if Satoshi and Hal made any bets on when their project would be addressed in such detail in a major public speech by the chief financial bureaucrat of the most powerful country on earth. 13 years was the answer. I wonder if they would have taken the over or under on that. I have more faith in Gensler than I ever will in Janet, but these are historical moments and markers on the way to the bright orange future. If you want to learn more from Gensler and Giga Chad Michael Saylor on what makes Bitcoin different, check out this video. Thanks for tuning in. Share us. Give us a pump. Be sure to catch Simply Bitcoin Live every Monday through Friday at 12:15 Eastern Standard Time and get the Simply Bitcoin signal in its written form. Subscribe to Simply Bitcoin Unfiltered. Do it for the culture. Thanks again, and don't shitcoin. It's like the 5th leading cause of cancer. Until next time, peace.